One effect you may be familiar with is lectures or different kinds of talks using typography in a way that emphasizes the words. This can be done in a variety of programs, including Photoshop, Final Cut, Premiere, Flash. Today I will show you an introduction into how you could do that in Motion. If you're unfamiliar with Motion, please view the previous video, and in that you will see how to create different types, how to adjust those types, how to position the types. So you can see at the bottom here in my timeline that I have already placed a number of different types. Different words, you can see what they actually say here: vocabulary, serif, kern, weight. If I scrub through, you'll also notice that some of them are fade in, fade out effects, and some of them just appear, and the finished product will have these 5 areas. If I would like some extra emphasis on particular words, I could zoom in. To do this in Motion, we're going to use the camera tool and this record button. There are several ways we could do this in Motion. This is just one of them. You could keyframe everything, but that would take a lot longer. So let's go here. I just scroll to the top of my timeline, and I'm going to click up at the top here, New Camera. I just want one camera. If you have built this in 2 dimensions, you will be asked if you would like to put it into 3 dimensions. All that does is allow you to move the camera in the space as if you were really there with a camera. For this particular project, we won't worry too much about actually using the 3D space, but we still need to switch to 3D. Now you'll see that we have this perspective: top, left, bottom, right, and front. And perspective, we can control our camera views using that. We can also control the camera views using this drop menu here. On the top right, you'll see we have some camera commands. This button here is panning and trucking. Over here you'll see we have some camera commands. Here we have dollying and trucking. This one allows us to rotate around objects. Again, remember that this is a 3D space. And this allows us to over here you will see some camera operations. This one here moves us along the X and Y axis, so it's vertical or horizontal. We have a button that will allow us to rotate around an object. Remember that this is a 3D space. And we have a zoom in and zoom out. So for example, if I move my playhead so that I can see this typography 10, I'm going to click and hold on the zoom, and I can move the typography 10. So I'm going to frame typography 10. Now I'll move back here, and now if I play it, you'll see that typography 10 is nicely framed, and depending on how everything else comes up, you can see that in the timeline that this area, although it's not in the frame, is still active. So now I want to move my camera around the space so that I can view these different areas. The record button allows me to position the camera at one point in time, and then if I move the playhead to another point in time, I can tell the camera where it needs to be at the second, third, or fourth point in time. What this allows me to do, instead of using keyframes, it allows me to move things around manually and more visually than just with dots along a timeline. So to start, I will press record. You'll see that it's recording. And then I'm going to move my playhead just as it gets to vocabulary. At this point, I'm actually going to click and hold the X and Y moving button, and I want to come up. Now what you'll notice is that I don't actually see anything because vocabulary is fading in. This gets kind of tricky, so I'm going to actually turn off my record. I'm going to undo that just for now, and I'll move the playhead over just a bit. By the time serif pops up, I should be able to see vocabulary. So again, I'll move the playhead back to the beginning. Remember that wherever you have the playhead when you hit record, that is where the camera will start. Double check that I'm on typography 10. Press record. I'll move the playhead over to when serif appears. I can adjust that subtly with this timeline scrub here. And then with the playhead over there, I'm going to again use the X and Y, and I want to frame vocabulary somewhere near the middle here. Now if I press record again, you'll see that this blue line has stayed here, and I can view what this looks like. Remember that motion always renders everything right away. You don't have to wait around like in Final Cut. Press play, start with typography 10. Vocabulary. Now you can see where this begins to get tricky. It moved away from typography 10 pretty quickly. So I could move the playhead again. So maybe I'll undo those camera motions, and I'll try it again. Zoom in, and maybe I'll go to 25 or 30. Let's go to 45 when typography 10 is solid. I'll press record, move the playhead again back to when serif appears, which was at 160 frames. I'll move on the XY axis. I'll press record again to show that that's where I want the camera to stop, and we can watch that again. Again, it's a little bit quick. You can try adjusting those for your particular project. If you have a lot of different words, you can zoom in and out and start building around these areas. And then when you finish your project, make sure you save it.